Hello, everybody. Let's go. So, Ashley, it's actually funny. You had said earlier you wanted to get into the nitty gritty between some of the SDR stuff that you were mentioning in the panel. Do you want to kick that off? We can just start there. I think that's really fun.
I mean, sure. I think gosh, obviously, what's going on right now in our world is massive. While some of us have had an opportunity at some level, having experienced the 2008 crisis, additional areas of where economies have gone down, I don't think any of us have ever gone through what we're going through right now. And you and I talked the other night, and I think where I get the most, I would say it, frustrated is where people are like, oh, lead with empathy, do this, do that. And I'm like, okay, yeah. So what the fuck, I'm sorry, what the fuck does that mean? And I think exactly. So how do we actually take what that means and where the world is right now, especially for our orgs from an SDR perspective? And then how do we actually give people tactical things that they can focus on improving their outreach and acquiring new customers? Because let's face it, aside from focusing on your existing customers, you have to get new ones during this time. So that's what I was hoping.
SDR land right now is an echo chamber. Right? It's an absolute echo chamber. So SDRs that are on this and listening here, okay, first off, make sure you're listening to what you feel like is right for the market, and vocalize that to your leader. Just because they're the leader doesn't mean they always know what's, best. We don't. We mess up a lot. It's natural to do. So we need that feedback, and leaders you have to, in a way right now, more than ever, avoid the echo chamber. So let's talk about the echo chamber for a minute. What I mean by that, I honestly think that when there's an idea shared on whether it be a LinkedIn or Modern Sales Pros or Revenue Collective or wherever you're getting your info from, when there's an idea shared, that idea is echoed a million times. And we lean on that as the law, as opposed to trying to come up with something that might be unique or owned by us. What's the problem with that is that when we lack uniqueness, we start doing the same thing everybody else is doing, because that's obvious. And what that does is just floods the market with a lot of BS. And the last thing right now anyone needs from an SDR is a lot of BS. We need to be the most authentic people in the absolute world right now. And that starts with exactly what you're saying, Ashley, this idea of lead with empathy. Yeah, the first week, right? It just happened. Be empathetical. Now you gotta okay, but then what? And it continues to change. I don't know.
Totally. No, I agree. And that's where I was excited you and I were gonna have this conversation. So I can, depending on what the crew wants to hear. Yeah. So I know we've got some people on the chats and giving questions that they want to hear, but I'm happy to give anything tactfully, whatever the word is, of what my team is doing and what other teams are doing that I know that it's working. I think from a really high level, what I would like to speak to is we know that, and we've known this for a while, right? That diversifying touch points of calls, emails, voicemails, LinkedIn, all of these work. Do we truly think people have actually been adapting to those? No. As an SDR leader like myself, no. I know my team hasn't been doing it. I know we've been lazy. And I know there's been these gaps along the way that we can be better at. But where I've been really impressed by this whole new remote world is that my reps are actually adapting to it. They're like, yeah, let's try something different. And I'm like, hell yeah, let's try something even more different. And so playing with things, I don't know, did you see the SNL skit the other night with the new Zoom?
I didn't actually. No, I wanted to as well. I will get there.
Yes. And so while that doesn't work for everyone, it is the same idea of put yourself in the shoes of the people that are bored as fuck sitting at home watching TV and looking at these videos where it's yeah, we can be sending some funnier things. And so we're working on different videos that happen to capture different personalities and things like that. Really, so
sorry to cut you off, Ashley, but we just fielded our first question, so I'm excited. Too excited. First off, Blake, yes, it's a pineapple White Claw. Yes, it's 70 calories. And yes, that's how I roll. But so do we think mentioning COVID is actually hurting our outreach? So it's funny, actually, so Ashley and I, before we got on here, we started talking shop about what our schools of thought were on the sales engagement platforms. And she's an outreach, I'm a sales loft person. But one of the things I love that sales loft produces a lot, Jeremy Donovan carries a lot of insight.
No, wait, I'm not a sales loft person.
Fine. It's already law. It's already law. Everyone knows you're not a sales loft person now. That's how it works. And so Jeremy Donovan was putting out information about this, and it's interesting. He mentioned something. It's like, I forget the percentage, but it's like a 20 some odd % decline. All right, on response, COVID in the subject line, or if COVID can be read in that pretext. Thought that's really interesting. So like, no one wants to hear it, right? It's like and I think it's because it's you got to think about it from an emotional, psychological standpoint. It's being talked about everywhere, right? And for some people, when you're at work, it's probably the last thing anyone wants to hear about is like what they're already reading about, what they go home about, what they're talking to their family about, like what is the general gist of everything. And some people use work to disconnect, and that's what they want to do. They want to disconnect. We're just trying to keep them connected. It's like, maybe not the best way in. But so it's interesting. That being said, I think mentioning the changes that we're witnessing happening due to COVID is okay. I think that matters. I think that makes it relevant. Those of you saying requested approval, hang tight. Kira is our moderator from Aircall, and she will be adding people as it makes sense to the conversation. So, but yes, that's, I think, is accurate. I don't know, Ashley, do you have a point on that as well for COVID?
Yeah, I mean, I think it sucks first and foremost, right? Like it's nothing any of us have ever wanted to have to deal with. I think it challenges us to figure out what's worked so far and what's not. Again, you and I talked about this, like avoiding what are the buzzwords of empathy and leading with value and all this shit that we wanted to like not do in this conversation. Yeah. Well, all that is obviously very important. And like, it starts with that. It's like, how do you get deeper into it? And I think it all goes with knowing your product, like knowing the value it can create, knowing your existing customers. So I would say get deeper to your customers, get deeper within your ICP, get deeper within your TAM, and like hone in on that kind of stuff is how you can like automatically overcome it. Not automatically, but quicker.
I agree. Kira, go ahead. You can add the first person.
Hi, I'm Kim. And my question is, like Ashley, you just talked about some creative new ways to prospect. And I would love to get some specific ideas. Like if you're going to go on all these different channels and, you know, you can do something a little different now, and you're not going to talk about COVID-19, what do you talk about?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it's a good segue too, Ashley, into what we were just talking about.
Yeah, I think so. While it might not be specifically mentioning COVID, I think it's being empathetic. Got it. But it's how you diversify your touch points. So just because you change your emails to say something more empathetic around you know, hope you're staying safe, hope everything is, you know, you're doing XYZ for your business. I think I think this is where you have to get back to basics, where most outbound organizations have seen the success of calls, emails, LinkedIn, text messages. We can talk. I know Bryan's got opinions about direct mail now, considering the climate that we're in, but the fact that there are additional like touch points that happen throughout the sequencing of a cold outreach through, and then you take that and you layer in the relationship between marketing and BD and other organizations within the go-to-market function that can all layer in together. I think you'll start to see more of a compounded effort from a initial touch into a meeting scheduled or opportunity down to a closed won deal. And then obviously you layer in the data between the beginning through the end, I think is where I would focus your efforts. But I think it would obviously depend on your business of where you're at right now.
Kim, I would break it into 3 different pieces for you. It's that I think that buyer, and this might be too simplistic, but I try to go as simple as possible almost always, because I try to think if I can't understand, if my child can't understand it, then I've already made it too complicated. And simply because people need some simplicity in what we're doing. We already are working too hard. It's already the hardest job in sales. So why make it harder, right? So 3 things. We have buyers that need what we have right now, and they're urgent behind it. We have buyers that don't know who we are, but probably need us, right? But at the same time, maybe they consider us a nice to have, so that could be a potential objection. And the third one is the buyer that could never need us. And I think that what that helps direct the outreach in is, what are you saying up front? It's funny, someone said on the right, COVID-19 is the new how's the weather, right? Like, it's like perhaps you're leading your outreach with a direct pitch as to what it is that you're doing for this person. Hey, John, I'm reaching out to you because colleges and universities across the United States have been needing a new telephony system. We know because they're reaching out to us, which made me think this made sense for you too. Here's how we're helping them, right? Like, I'm giving that as an example. College and universities at Aircall have been out of nowhere a new thing for us, and yet it's been really exciting to see a new vertical extend itself. I think that's kind of the change. It's getting value up front. I know that's a buzzword I promised Ashley I wouldn't use, but it is getting value up front. Important. I want to pop over to Alex here quick. I know he's up on the channel here. Alex, go, man. What's up?
I lead a sales development department that consists of 10 SDRs, 2 managers that help support me. And what really resonated to me during the panel session was what KD said about pivoting. I feel like we're trying to pivot on a weekly basis by assessing what's working, what's not. And I'm at the point now, 5 or 6 weeks in, where I think we're overwhelming the team, because we're constantly trying to try something new on a weekly basis. So we've summarized in our weekly meetings kind of the key areas of focus that we want our team to focus on. But, we're not the only ones that are coming up with new ideas. You got the product team rolling out new messaging. You got the content team pushing out new content. You got the AEs and the field team recommending different types of tactics. So I'm curious to get your guys' perspectives on how do you help the SDRs just prioritize in this chaotic time where we got so many different ideas going on?
No, and you know what? It's a really important question, Ash. I'm gonna, if you don't mind, I had this vision come into my head as he was talking. I wanted to spearhead it first.
Get it, dude.
Sales dev can sometimes feel like the kids on the soccer field chasing the ball, right? Like, you have this new idea, and then you're like, all right, everyone go after it, and the ball's over here, right? And then someone kicks the ball again, and they all run the other direction. And I honestly think that that's a really accurate visual as to what can happen without having a process first mentality, which is what KD talked about. And I think it's really an accurate thought. Something right now at Aircall, very specifically, I mean, we tend to serve, anybody needs a phone really well, but the travel industry was a huge piece for us, right? It was absolutely a good chunk of customers, a good chunk of value we were able to come to market with. But I think what we found is that we had to figure out, being that they were shrinking, okay, well, where's the new vertical? And so we started thinking about, all right, well, how do we reverse engineer a little bit of what we're getting inbound? But then what is the timelines by which we try new things? So one of the things that I think is really important that you do is set goals and specific focuses and specific goals with specific timelines, right? You need to have that so you can actually carve it up and give things the right try to make it work. I think in sales dev, at least it's going to change based upon the market segment you're going towards. If it's small business, mid-market, or enterprise, is what that chunk of time looks like. But I generally work within a 2-week outreach campaign to understand if I'm getting anything back. I can adjust things in content in terms of open rate and click-through rate and reply rates, and I can try to mitigate that. But from the granular aspect, I can really understand in 1,000 touches what my response rate, what my reply rates are going to be like, to understand my penetration rate, understand whether or not I'm having success in a specific vertical. So I think if you're trying to lead strategy and you're doing so with marketing, you're doing so with ops, you're doing so with sales, whatever it is that you're doing with, and you're working cross-functionally like most of our awesome SDR leaders do, make sure you're having actual defined touch points and defined end goals by which you're going to try out those new rhythms. Ashley, anything to add to
that? No, I love that. I think where the SDR function tends to fall short when it comes to other people's opinions. Again, I'm super fucking bullish when it comes to SDR as far as like where we need to show our value, whether that needs to roll up to marketing or sales. I think we actually do something very unique and different where we bridge the gap between the two. I think marketing does a great job of doing mass communication out with email marketing. I'm well versed in ABM. I love my marketing partners. I think it's great. I think sales does a great job as well. I think where we have at an SDR level has done a better job is being able to actually go really deep into these accounts and strategize and account score and work with sales ops. And I think we are the liaison between the two orgs that have been what historically has been like the, go-to-market function when it comes to outbound process. And so, no, I agree with everything that you said, Bryan. And I think there's just even more opportunity for SDR. And again, with it being the cross-functionally working with marketing and operations and everything, that's where you need a really strong sales development leader to actually create what that partnership looks like.
Yeah, and I think that really leans into the fact of the third pillar you were mentioning about, right? Like sales dev is the third pillar. I agree wholeheartedly. All right, let's pivot here. Dylan McCormick, welcome, my friend.
Hi guys, how's it going?
Well, how are you?
I'm good. I'm joining you on the White Claw bandwagon over here.
Yeah, welcome aboard.
Trying my best. So I had a little unique question. I was recently laid off with our whole sales team. I work for a small startup out of San Francisco. I was actually the first BDR hired on. So I established all outbound process, content database, a few sales tools there, and started getting things moving. Just started to have a little bit of success, some opportunities on the table. Unfortunately, we supported enterprise retailers. So as you know, not doing great in this time. But our CTO introduced me to a COO of another company that is just gotten their basically seed funding, undisclosed amount, starting to really ramp up their sales process. Don't have any salespeople right now. So they're hiring a senior sales development representative to go in and not only act as an SDR to help on a lot of the leads that they've brought in. They've invested a lot into growth marketing to actually get users going on, but also to establish some sales process, close deals, and other things of that nature. Just with everything going on, what type of processes do you think would be important to implement that are a little bit different just due to the environment? And then how would your approach change? And this is also obviously going into the interview. I actually have a follow-up Friday on how I would explain that, but also how would you realistically do it? Because I saw that each of you have had experience establishing a full SDR org yourself.
Yeah, that's one of the things I think I would speak for Ashley and say that we're probably most proud of too. Ash, do you want to take a quick stab on?
Sure. Yeah, I was going to say, chomping at the bit here. I think if I were I'm just going to revert. If I were in your shoes, what I would do. Okay, I would think about where the business is at today. What is their addressable market? And then scaling back realistically, what's the market that's actually viable with what's going on right now? And so I think that's a huge mistake that a lot of startups make is they're like, hey, we are XYZ, we can support everyone and let's go for it. And this is how many we could acquire, we can go after. Well, that's fair. That's great. How many of those are truly within your ICP? What is your ICP? What does that mean as far as the type of accounts? How easy is that for different, for SDRs and AEs to look after online? So most SaaS companies I've ever worked for have always looked at the number of employees in the account, so off of LinkedIn data, how much funding they have. You can look at Crunchbase. What does that mean for your specific business and how does that look? And then from there, how much market do they already have? And if not, how much do they expect they can have? And then start just working backwards as far as how many you know, gosh, how many accounts AEs, SDRs can work, things like that.
I'm going to add one thing there. So Dylan, I think Ashley's spot on. Keep two things in mind, especially for someone that doesn't necessarily have a sales team in place yet, and they're now going to hire you to pretty much be everything, right? That's a lot, man. Like, God bless you, okay? Like, you're taking on and tackling a project, but good for you, because doing it successfully is going to build out such a huge thing for your career and your resume. I'm going to put this out there. Two things. One, everything in this world, especially now, is human to human first in sales. Okay, it doesn't matter what process it is or what your product you have. Okay, you need to have and develop human to human connections. That is going to be the best thing ever. And what I mean by human to human connections is that it's not about the secret sauce, the secret content, the best process. It's about connecting with another human being. Okay, and like, as basic as that, and we miss that constantly in sales. We miss it. We turn a blind eye sometimes to it, not on purpose, but because we're so focused on what we're working on hitting a number, on achieving quotas and whatever. We miss the whole, like, hey, like, this is a human connection job, right? So that's the first one. The second thing is that you're going to need to get some quick wins and quick. So I would try to identify what the lowest hanging fruit is in this role. And try to start there before I went out of outside the box thinking. Try to see who's going to buy this product or who has bought it in the past. Start there, then go elsewhere. I think those are my two pieces of thought. Alexandra, load her up. What do we got? Who's next? Here we go. Kevin Work, welcome, man. How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Good.
What's up, AK?
Hey, dude. How you doing?
Good. Kevin here, SDR manager for a company in San Francisco, Rippling. I had the pleasure of working with AK. She was the first one to give me a shot at a company called Lever back in the day. I had a question for you guys regarding qualification guidelines. So when you think about like this new world we're in, right? And I love how you put it in a way like, hey, like, we overlap with marketing and the rest of the sales funnel. And, you know, we're always in the struggle of like marketing. If they had it their way, they'd be like, let everything through. And sales folks are like, no, protect our time. Like, give us the right shots at the right time. Like, what are your thoughts on, there's some topics of discussion going around like, you know, loosening up qualification, because like, sales reps need to still take reps, right? So like things, maybe if your timeline qualification was like 90 days, like, is it 6 months now? Like, what does that look like? And do we like just coach our reps to like sell into that and prep and set the right expectations for the account executives who are going to take those demos?
No professional Major League Baseball batter ever takes a swing at every baseball just to see if it increases their hits, right? Like, they choose the pitches being thrown at them, and they do so on purpose. So I hear this is a common theme. I hear it all the time of like, the AEs needed work. They need more people to talk to. They need more qualification. Here's the truth on qualification. All right. And I'll start it there. It's, first off, identify and work with your sales leaders, your sales counterparts, to get a congruent set of what qualification criteria they want. Okay, get on the same page with them. It's not your qualification criteria, and it's not their qualification criteria. It's both of yours. Come together and set that criteria. We just did this at Aircall. We had to. We came up with 3 things. For us, we already knew there was budget. We already knew there was some sort of timeline factors. We kind of just took those out, okay, for our buying cycle. It just made sense for us. But there was 3 things that we didn't know. 1, could they be a good Aircall customer? Like, did they fit the mold of what we generally sell to? 2, did they have a need that had a direct impact to their business? Okay, so not just a need that we could sell to, because that's a nice to have, but is there a need that's directly impacting their business negatively today that we can solve for? Okay, and 3, is this individual a person of authority? Meaning, do they have influence, or are they a DM? If you signed off on all 3 of those, then ding, 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 set the appointment. Ashley, how did you guys look at it?
I don't disagree. I think it depends on the business. Absolutely. So basically what you're describing is what we did at Lever, and where Kevin and I work together. So he's very familiar with like what our BANT criteria was, 2 out of 4 BANT. What I would say now, where my world is like, it's super transactional. And like, if you have based on the company and the right person on the call, like we keep it super high level. So I think it depends. Like if you are in the volume game where you need a shit ton of meetings being scheduled, the right people, go for it, right? Like let's just go ham up there. If all of a sudden you have too many meetings that are happening and too much time is being wasted on the AE level where those aren't qualified and something that's not going to move through the funnel, then like that's where you have to adapt. And so I think like being very transparent with your reps and your org as far as what's appropriate, what's not, and that could change on like a weekly, monthly basis. And it frankly does at most startups. And like, that's what I've done with my org is, hey, this quarter is what we're focusing on. Next quarter could look very differently.
I think we have time for one or two more. Alexandra, you want to load up the next person? This is fun. I like this. It's like speed dating SDR question style.
Yeah.
Dennis Walker, come on.
How you doing?
Next contestant on
Hi.
Ask Us stuff.
Good. Hey, listen, for those of us who have been in an outside role and are transferring to working more from home, what would be your best advice to keep from going insane? And how do we best establish a process of accountability for ourselves and keep our relationship really good with our leadership team?
All right, hold on. Those are multiple points. I'm taking my notes.
Okay.
You want accountability?
I do.
Relationship with leadership and transitioning, right?
Correct.
Okay. Cool. I have a lot of thoughts on this, but Ash, you can start if you'd like.
No, you go. You're the one that took the notes. My whole thought is like, holy shit, I don't know. You tell me.
All right, game on. So I love this question. I think one of the best parts or most exciting parts of my career was leading an outside sales team, and I loved it. I had 22 people that I was responsible for at Yellow Pages that were across 5 boroughs in New York, and like I had to trust the autonomy of these individuals at any given moment, and at the same time make sure I knew what was happening in my business. And honestly, some of the coolest times and greatest sales war stories I'll ever have. Some advice for you, okay? Because I've gone through this transition myself, and now and going through it kind of again in a weird way, where even though I was in the office, now I told Ashley this, I have an 800 square foot house. My master bedroom makes up 300 square feet of that, and I'm sitting in it right now. So it's like a new transition for me again. First off, on transitioning home, okay, you need to hold true to a couple things, okay? First and foremost is you need to hold true to your calendar. I'm making sure that I'm building out blocks for things that are me time. And by me time, I mean like what's going to make me mentally healthy, mentally prepared. That's time with my children. That's time with my wife. That's me going to the gym. And by the gym now, I mean the track, and I'm running the track. But still, the high school track works. Got it done, right? I'm watching what I'm eating. Like I'm trying to make sure that I'm taking care of me physically and mentally so that I'm prepared. And I think that's really important that you do. Other things that I do, because I like the noise, I like the hustle bustle of life. Anyone couldn't tell on this, I'm a pretty gregarious individual. So that being said, I will have like a movie or TV on when I'm working, because it gives me the background noise that I'm doing. Or if that's too much, I'll put on music. And it gets me kind of going that way. For accountability, look, like you obviously know the daily metrics you need to do to be good at your business, right? And you can back into that. Something I think is innate in all of sellers is that like when they've gone into this remote environment, everyone's really a focused individual in sales. Like you have to be in order to be successful. But those focused individuals are now like without the distractions, right? Of people coming up to you or like going up and talking to you. All of a sudden, you are getting a lot more done, which means you're probably going deeper into your work, which means you're probably getting tired more. So make sure that you're taking the time to decompress, but make sure you also know what metrics you need to hit on a daily basis in order to have the aggregate success. Finally, relationship with management. No matter who says it doesn't matter, it absolutely matters. Schedule 2 things. Schedule a coaching session with your leader once a week. Schedule a one-on-one with your leader once a week. And yes, those are different things. Your one-on-one should be about metrics and performance and attainment, right? Your coaching session should be about your skills, all right? And those 2 things in and of itself will maintain that form of relationship with your leader. Those are going to be like the most basic keys to success. But absolutely, Dennis, you should be connecting with me on LinkedIn, and I'll go deeper with you. I'll spend some time with you and help you out. You're going to be just fine, my friend. I promise. Ashley, you have anything else you want to add?
Yeah, I want to, well, I think what you just said is like totally on point, but what I want to elaborate is your leaders want to help you just as much as they want to feel helpful, if that makes sense. And it's weird, like we're in this whole new world of like, we used to be able to just like walk by your desk, or you could come up to us and ask us questions, and like we love that. Like we actually like thrive off of that. And so when there's a moment where you're lost or need some sort of help, all of a sudden like we can't like feel that sense of like affirmation either. And so like you being able to like ping us quickly, being like, hey, what would you do for this moment? Like, what about this objection, this or that? Like I've got reps that have put cold call sessions on my calendar just for Zoom ones where it's like 2 or 3 of them and myself, and we're just on it. And like each person takes a turn doing it, and I give feedback. I'll hop on calls too. Like just stuff that's like let's get us out of our normal funk, and like actually we just enjoy seeing each other more. And then we catch up and we talk about other things that are like way cooler than cold calling, obviously. But wait, like that is like
cooler than cold calling? Wait, I don't get it. What are you talking about? What is this noise?
We're gonna catch on that. Yeah, there's moments that are cooler than cold calling. But more things like that, like just get connected to people and like reach out to them. And I have met with some of my C-level execs where I'm like, hey, here's a 30-minute sync that I put on. I'm like, don't worry, I only need 10 minutes of your time. And they're like, no, I'm actually excited to talk to you. So don't undervalue yourself or what like is happening in the world right now. Get excited. Use this opportunity to build with people cross-functionally and like outside of just your existing world. Like there's so much that can happen. It's actually really fun in a weird, sick way.
Patrick, welcome to the show. We have 3 minutes to give you all of the fulfillment you're looking for, my friend. Let's go.
All of the knowledge. Perfect. Yeah. So yeah, my name is Patrick. I work for a company called Alpha FX. It's a foreign currency broker in Toronto. And one of the things that I'm struggling with right now is reaching DMs, so C-level executives and business owners, when predominantly all I do all day is call. I don't do many emails. It's really hard to differentiate yourself. So my question to you guys is, when people are out of the office, what's the best tool that you can think of, or the best software that you can think of to get a hold of these people and create interest?
Okay. I know where you're going to go with this one, but you start, Ashley.
So I have a lot of feelings about this. I've got feelings about the fact that
he says on the right, no tech stack, just calling.
Okay, so fine. I feel that calls are great. I think calls are amazing. I think voicemails are amazing. I think text messages are there. I think voice memos over LinkedIn are there. What I was going to ask him, though, he mentioned like being more focused, like office, right? And so like we're in this remote world, which makes it difficult. I call BS on that, because I think a lot of these, like, I don't know about Aircall, but I'm pretty sure a lot of these happen to route to cell phones, route to home offices. And so you can actually keep those things like alive. So that's where I think about it, to where it doesn't change anything. It's still, the most important thing is that you're using these different touch points to get you to your meeting.
I agree. I think that, look, Patrick, you not having a software in place to help you manage doesn't stop you from doing something, right? A LinkedIn account's free. Okay, go get one, and I'm sure you have one, so use it. You don't have the email credits. You can go look at someone's profile. That means they're going to look at you. That's generally how that works, and I know. And I think one of the things that I found really quickly when we started going remote is that my LinkedIn like usage of people looking at me like skyrocketed. Right? People are on social more. Secondly, I think email is super important. Hard to differentiate yourself. I disagree. I think that you just haven't uncapped that yet. You can find a way to differentiate yourself. It's a matter of finding that message that you think resonates with the person you're speaking to. Standing out of the crowd is about personalizing that in some way, shape, or form that makes it so that you're trying to connect with that person on a human-to-human basis. The third thing is that it takes a combination of all things to get in touch with your buyer. It's not just calls. I love calls, don't get me wrong. And in fact, I think calls are probably crushing it right now across all channels. But it's the combination of everything together. That's what's going to have the highest amount of success for you. And I think it's really important to call attention to that. Combine, and build science behind your outreach. Think about multiple touches. Think about multiple days. Start with like a 15-day 9-touch cadence. See how it goes. But start there. Thank you for participating. You guys have been awesome.